Welcome, everyone. So nice to see you, Thor.
So nice to see you too, Ines.
Thank
And
you.
I just wanna excuse my voice to everybody who's listening. It is a bit off today, but hey ho, such is life.
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good. No, it's good.
Good.
It's good.
How's your week been, Ines?
It's been, yeah, no, it hasn't been bad at all. I told you that, bits and pieces happen, and unpleasant, anxious making bits and pieces. And um, what we talk about, sometimes it's really important just to remember what you're trying to encourage other people to do, or do the lifeline you're throwing to the rest of the world, that maybe you need that same lifeline.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think one of the important things is, when we spoke about, chatted a little bit beforehand, is that nothing is permanent. It can
yeah,
seem a long wait, but the permanency, I'm not saying that necessarily, you know, negativity, but we have to go through these cycles. And from my observations, because of that hardship, 9 times out of 10, we always wind up on a stronger plateau.
mm, yeah, no,
And
exactly.
sometimes we're really surprised. God, how did I manage to go through that?
Yeah,
Because now life is good.
yeah,
And you feel that happiness of, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you type of thing.
yeah.
And what else did you say to me that you always say, winds of change? I know everybody knows that little ditty of winds of change.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. So,
yeah,
as you're well aware of, and sharing with the rest of our listeners, I've been going through some change in my corporate job over the last few weeks, changing departments, changing boss, and so on and so forth. I mean, all of that can be quite unsettling, right? Because change is somewhat always quite unsettling, and I suppose how I managed to think and feel myself through that is that at least I think I'm quite good at reading. I mean, reading how the winds are changing, basically. And but a part of that is also like you can either ride the winds of change or get off it. And the
mm,
essence of that is that reminding myself of that I always have a choice. When sort of stuff when because I suppose the change that I've been going through has been outside of my control. It's not something I necessarily have control over. But even when it is outside of my control, I have to come to the back to the basics of reminding myself of that I have a choice. And that has
well,
really helped me through that.
if I go down the proverbial rabbit hole, the choice. Let's say you're in a very good position, and you have commitments, family, rent, mortgage, whatever it happens to be, and it looks as if your job is sort of on the line. You get the feeling, whatever. The
Mm,
choices are sometimes very, very difficult,
yeah, I bet.
because now with the pandemic and the Brexit and everything else, there's not always the same amount of jobs that there could
Mm,
have been. And often then we also fall back on our age. You're too young, too experienced. Don't have experience. And so you're too old and you have too much experience. All of these sort of things sometimes come into play. And to come out of that, I think the choices, as you quite rightly mentioned, is what other options have I got? And go from there to see the experience that you have as an individual. How can you harness that?
mm,
And if it's on a monetary situation, if you have a home or flat, are you able to use that revenue, really bite the bullet, be courageous, either sell it and move into something whereby you can rent at the same time to tide you over at least for the everyday expenses,
yeah,
because it often boils down to,
yeah,
and really capitalize on what you have,
yeah,
even as little as we sometimes feel we have.
yeah, yeah.
uh, Takes a hell of a lot of courage.
It
You
does.
know what? You know what? I'm sorry. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say something that is at the end of our podcast, because we're talking about that. And the quote, which is the happy quote, okay, this is somebody else's happy quote. It's not actually a happy quote, but it's a very good quote. It's from Martin Luther King, which we all, most of us have heard of anyway. In his very famous speech, he did not start it by saying, I've got a problem. You know, the guy had a problem. He started with, I have a dream.
Mm.
And that is, I think, what we should also do, try to do. I have a dream. How and what can I do to achieve that? What is your dream?
Mm.
Instead of starting at the negative end, my glass is empty, it's almost empty. It's not the problem. What can we do to fix that problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that takes us back to that thing which we were talking about last week as well, right? Which is your attitude of mind. Takes you back to your, it takes you back to your attitude of mind. And I mean, I strongly believe is that that's something you have to give yourself space to cultivate, right? I'm not sure. I mean, I can't tell because I don't know otherwise, but I'm not sure if I would have the same attitude of mind if I didn't meditate, if I didn't exercise, if I didn't journal and like do all of those things, because I think those practices gives me the attitude of mind to be able to think myself through those kind of situations. I mean, I don't have many commitments either, but I do think it really does. I do think it really does help.
It does. As you said, with commitment, sometimes I feel that individuals who have the children, and there's lack of space, there's lack of time, which is the main thing. And amongst that, then the financial turmoil of now happens to emerge as well. It's sometimes difficult, but the individual involved, what can they do? How can they actually generate something different in the line of work that they have or the expertise that they have? And sometimes it actually involves really stepping low. Nothing is low. Nothing is ever low. But how can we step out of that if say you have a corporate job and you're trying to survive?
Yeah.
It's just a hard one.
Yeah, it is a really hard one.
But what you absolutely correctly said is it is the attitude of mind. If we are able to just relax a little bit, it gives that anxious spot in our brain just a bit of wiggle room where your intelligence, which may be guided, who knows, but if that your intelligence can come through and find something to do. Even if it means you have an organization, a new business plan. Anything,
right?
And that is absolutely. And our podcast always, not just today, is our aim, I believe, is to help us to bring some understanding to life.
Yeah.
Not just, of course, we know we're here to learn, God, but how are we going to deal with that learning process? We're emotional individuals. Things hurt. They cause stress, anxiety, all kinds of things. And as you said, sometimes, mostly, they're out of our control as well. But through what we're talking about, it brings a different perspective, to our life. So whether we think it's something that's happened to us, good, bad, or indifferent, it's still a personal viewpoint, nothing else.
Yeah.
It still has to be personal.
It has to be personal.
That's right.
And I think that's, again, though, it's like, I think it's a really interesting thing because obviously we're a spiritual link, right? So we come from a spiritual perspective. And, I always admire one thing which you said to me really early on in the process, Ines. And I was at first I was like, oh, why should I not do that? But you said early on, try not to read any books on spirituality. Just try not to, because that will be their meditation of how spirituality comes together. And I think a huge part, again, I think cultivating that attitude of mind, right, is to find your own spirituality. And you can only find that through doing the work. It's the only way. There's no other way.
That's right. You're quite right. Because spirit, or if you take guides or anything like that, no one is trying to take away the individuality, that spark of
Mm.
humanity that we each individually have. It's supposed to strengthen whatever we've got going for us. Because
Yeah.
life is going to go on. So if we think it's good or bad, whatever's happening around us, we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Life will continue.
Yeah.
And if we're able to plan for the future, good for us. Sometimes we're not. We don't even have that ability to
Yeah.
plan for it. It makes it easier. But as you said, it's our attitude of mind, which is still the basis of bringing us out of that difficulty in life as well. You asked me what we were sort of talking about. What I also would like to bring forward is dust particles. Yeah, dust particles, and also as well as the moisture in the air makes it possible for us to see the rainbow. And of course, the rainbow is the aura of the earth. And there's this isn't what I'm going to talk about, but some psychics, not necessarily mediumistic. Mediumistic means you're bringing forward another individual, but a lot of psychics are able to literally read a rainbow and are able to decipher what is going on in the world's crust, the movement. You can see perhaps, oh, there's a bit of shakiness in South America. I can see the volcanoes rising in Australia. That is all part of it. But also we're able to, through the rainbow, we're able to monitor the flares, the natural flares from the rays of the sun, which also, I believe, contribute to our weather pattern as well.
Mm.
So when we open the chakrams in the body as well, we're also splitting the colors. In the Earth's atmosphere, it's water droplets and dust. The human body is also the same proportion of water as the Earth is of water. And of course, we also have the dust particles that are around us. So we're splitting it's the same analogy as the aura of the Earth. But when we do that, we're actually bringing forward a connection, but it's a connection with all life. We're bringing a connection with the worms, with other human beings. Of course, that's where we resonate the most. And that's why we have the natural ability to send messages, receive messages, perceive what is going on, thoughts, and so on and so forth. If we're talking about sending messages, this might be really of interest. So there we are. We're going to countries again, and you are in a condominium. I'm thinking now the U.S. I'm thinking of Florida, and this is a real true thing. So warm bugs galore, cooties galore. They are bugs like this. Or even a cootie game. They're bugs, and then the big bulgy eyes and so on. And I don't know if you can hear this online, but boom, boom, boom. They're marching. You can hear them. They're like troops.
Mm.
And there was Owen and I. And they were going to go for our door. Oh, no. With the strength of our mind is stronger than a cootie mind. You can actually just link in and redirect their minds. Left. Go to Janet's room. You like that one better. But I'm being silly now. But you can redirect animals. You can also redirect, say, bees and so on. They have a natural progressive need to gather honey or whatever it is. But it is possible because we're all auras. They're the same life. They're just a different purpose. It's the power of recognition from ourselves and also from others, because color, of course, is all about the person. The color, they're like rings of a tree. If you take the great redwood trees or any tree that's big enough that you can see the rings, it's the past, the present, and the future is all within the aura colors. And then we come also to the integrity of the mind, and not only the way that mind is in general, it's the identity of the person. If they're a gentle individual, but also what they have in mind to do that second in time. All of this brings us together. It's the makeup. It also reflects the bodily functions. So we're coming into transmitting, We're coming into healing now, the auric patterns, what you feel. And this feeling can be done with the hands, with crystals, with the pendulums, all manner of situations, colors, sound, la da da di da. We're all able to connect because of the chakras and the colors in the chakras, but also importantly, the fragility of our mind. And this, I think, Thor, is where you really do so very, very well in the sessions, in your corporate job that you do. Are you still in charge of leading meditations and so on?
Yeah.
To be able to identify the fragility, even though they may be the same individuals. We have good days and we have bad days. The fragility of the people's minds and how you approach them and what kind of meditation you're going to lead them into.
Yeah.
That's so important. So I'm certain when they come and you feel or you see their aura, because sometimes it's difficult to see because the light might be behind you or whatever it happens to be, but you can still sense it. I'm assuming then you would adapt your meditation accordingly, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Try and figure out what the collective energy in the room is, right? And try and pace yourself around what that is for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if
Yeah.
somebody has difficulty with meditation, then to just a little bit deeper, calming and so on.
Yeah.
But this let us say coalition, because it's all around us. It's in the room of the persons that is now watching or listening to our podcast. It's in your room, Thor, in my room. It's all around us. It's in every room. It's in a concert hall, whether it's indoors or outdoors, wherever it may be. This coalition is our intuition. And that intuition is everybody's birthright because everybody has it. And I know so many, you do too, Thor, so many people, oh, I'm not intuitive. Oh, rubbish. That's a lot of rubbish. And we work with it every single second of the day. You're trying to figure out where you can get the lead, that you're top dog, or that you don't fall down, and make a mistake or something.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure it out. That's intuition.
Yeah. That is intuition, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why what we're doing is so important. Don't have to believe, prove it for yourself. We call it spiritual link because it's that other part of us. That's all it is. So very important. And also when we talk of aura to aura, you know this, Thor, already. Everything you can possibly imagine, want to do, depends on aura to aura. So if we start with the basics, not the basics, nothing is basic, but let's take a trader. It's the intuition, the total concentration of that individual depends on their ability to suss out what to sell and what to buy. And that intuition, what we're talking about when the chakras are open, we are able to link in with the minds of whoever is selling. Say that, I'm thinking of that one film. Let's say there's the corn crop. Doesn't matter if it's an oil crop or corn crop, or let's just say the oil. I'm talking about not cooking oil now. I'm talking about Saudi as an example. So what have they got in mind? You can get a feeling of that. Maybe in London, New York, Rome, doesn't matter. We can still get a feeling of the intent of what is happening by linking in. And that is a basic right of everyone. So that's a trader. And then we come to the fine tuning, as to say a healer would do, as you're doing, a Thor, the fine tuning of the fragility of the person who has come to you for help. We may be able to heal ourselves. Of course, we did a podcast on it. Great. However, doesn't it feel nice when somebody else is taking charge? And you don't have to think about homing in on anything. Let somebody else home in on it. It's half of it.
Yeah.
And then if we home in on, on what is happening to it. I gave some healing yesterday, and her pancreas is getting much better through very much her own self-help. And then she asked me to come over, and I picked up, it was her feet. And she had a bad accident with it, not in the cast or anything. And anyway, it turned out, I said, she's wearing totally the wrong feet. shoes. Her legs needed a little bit more stability. She had sort of a super flip-flops. She said, oh, they're stable. They're not stable. She needed an enclosed shoe.
Mm.
And because she only wore flip-flops, she had water retention and all kinds of things. But because we talked about her illness, we talked about her life, it helps.
Yeah.
And, that's what it's all about. But aura to aura is also, let's say, clairvoyance. That is actually, we all have it, but that is not the birthright of everyone. That is something that either you've got or you haven't got. It's not something you can teach yourself to do. It's something that would come automatically because it is meant to happen in your lifetime. But that, of course, is aura to aura. It is the aura of your guide. That's what's left of us, to yourself. Sensing is intuitive, is purely intuitive. That's why if someone is doing whatever spread, or you're doing it for yourself, that's intuition. You don't have the foresight. It's the here and now. That's the difference. As with clairvoyance, you also, it is the future. It's able to predict or to see the future. And then, of course, if that clairvoyant brings forward some individual that you were close to, then, of course, that becomes then mediumship as well. But it is all aura to aura, nothing else, and nothing whatsoever. But whatever it is still a natural function. And this natural function only becomes, let us say, distorted because people need to express themselves as being bigger and better than somebody else. Look what we're doing, Thor. We don't have special clothes. We don't have to have this or that or the other. It's the human need of any individual to need to follow something. Fine. But it doesn't have to be imposed on another individual's belief pattern. If you need nothing that is as strong as an individual who needs the bells and this and that, it's fine. Crystals are a tool. They are a natural element of nature. We have crystals to amplify our radios. We now have crystals to amplify the space stations. I know they use crystals. It was published. Which is a little bit different. It's not a gimmick. A candle is something that brings peace. But if you don't have a candle, you can do exactly the same thing. It's and if you're doing color healing and there's nothing around, there you are in the desert. Nothing is there. Well, of course, it's full of color anyway. Imagine it. That's all it is. It's so individual. But we have to have, one has to literally say, the royal one, we have to have imagination in this area to grow for ourselves, for this life, for the physical life, to look at different levels of life, to look at different levels of enjoyment, and also to live in different levels of importance. And the reason being that from that, our life, our humble life, is no less important than someone who is world known, who has managed through their karmic pattern to amass a lot of money. Good for them. It's not us. But that doesn't mean we're not as special and have achieved as much as the next individual. Probably no one will remember us when we're dead. But even if you take somebody very, very well known, all we remember is the physical person and the physical achievements. We don't know what the spirit did. It's only that. Everyone is on exactly the same level of importance. And if they're just managing to exist from day to day, imagine the huge lesson that spirit has also elected to go through. That's a big one. Or the terrible illnesses that are all around the world. How can anybody say that it is not a punishment? It is only ever a learning process. How does it feel to walk in somebody else's shoes? Without criticizing, oh, you're no good. Why aren't you like so-and-so? You're not meant to be.
So I saw this thing on the old Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and someone put out this thing about that. Oh, she was some sort of indigo child that
Oh
had
yeah.
chosen to come here from spirit to be a healer. And
Okay.
I suppose we can just
We're
set
all,
that right.
yeah, but we're all indigo children, aren't we?
We are all indigo children.
Yeah.
And there's no Elos magazine, there's no Vogue magazine
No,
where you get to choose,
that's
right?
right. No, that's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And everyone, if we take someone who's not at all involved in anything, and they're sometimes the kindest, considerate individuals, they're always trying to help someone, the
Mm,
first to speak up.
mm,
That's an indigo child.
yeah.
Or if you are actually indigo, let's get practical. You're nuts. You have
Yeah.
to be so careful
Yeah.
because you're on the verge of going totally crazy. It's a very strong color. It has
Yeah.
to be actually controlled by calming, really,
Yeah.
really calming. So that's why when if you're in any group, anyone's in a group, don't open the red that much. A little bit.
Mm.
If it has to be open, the guides will do it.
They will pump it through as much
They
as it's
absolutely,
necessary.
if it's necessary, like they did with Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
The chap was, from some of the reports I read, he was very religious, very religious. And when he was past the point of reason, as we saw it in the West, of course, nothing could have changed his mind because he was being fed the color of red,
Mm.
intolerance, aggression. You can't win because we're guided. That was
Yeah.
his karma,
Yeah.
and that was the karma inflicted on the world, and he was the catalyst.
Yeah.
So it's a biggie. It's very much
So how do we bring the aura to aura into our practical life, like in your daily life?
I think what you also said, simple, relax,
Mm.
meditate. We call it
Mm.
meditation. It is a word, it's a meditation, relaxing the mind and the body. But to the point, not because somebody's told you, you have to truly get away from anything that's around you. That's why I feel that the visualization meditation allows your mind to focus on something physical
Yeah.
down the path, relax, see the organs as you're relaxing, da 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 da. And then by the time you finish that and you go into this lovely white light, then maybe you've removed yourself a little bit. But
Mm.
also the important thing with the colors, see the colors, smell the colors, taste the colors. We do this sort of in varying degrees sometimes, Thor.
Yeah.
That is why meditation is so important.
Yeah. I suppose it also, you mentioned the word imagination at one point, didn't you?
Yeah,
And I think that the meditation that we do is really conducive to enhancing your imagination, which again enhances your ability to see the opportunities that are around you, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Imagination for opportunities that are maybe unbelievable,
Yeah.
that you never thought pertained to yourself.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Yeah. And that comes from this spirit within that knows what's going on. What I always like for myself is to come back. I know when nobody's overlooked. Nobody's sort of, oh God, I took my eye off the ball and so is going down the drain. We are all in the position we are meant to be at this time. So how are we going to suck up?
Mm.
President Biden has pledged 500 million vaccines for the world. We have pledged 100 million for the world to be distributed through the world. Because if the world isn't vaccinated, it doesn't matter if 7 countries or 10 countries or 20 countries, we all have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
We all have to be able to fight it.
Yeah. Not to diverge into a different topic, but because it was this week, what are your thoughts on like the solar eclipse? Because obviously in astrology and so on
Yeah.
and so forth, again, Instagram has sort of been on fire with the solar eclipse. What's your 5p on that? What's your pearl of wisdom?
Well, the pearl of wisdom is I'm a very down to earth person. So the guidance when I spoke to the guides on a very one-to-one basis, they never ever said this doesn't work or that doesn't. Astrology and the stars, of course, is a very wonderful way of divination. What happens though to the individuals that didn't have a time? I was born in 935 on the 10th of April 2021 or something like that. What happens to those who didn't have a clock to get to their astrological forecast?
Yeah.
Look, if we look at it like that.
Sure.
And of course, not primitive man, but before we knew any better, they always thought that was an omen, a bad omen. It was meant to be a bad omen for that time of our evolution in life to create whatever else was happening. It is a natural occurrence, nothing else. That is all I can say. Having said that, I get my astrological little book at the beginning of the year. just in case. Yeah. So it's divination, but the divination that is given it is guided. So if someone believes in that, it is fine. If I take the little cactus, they can do huge cactus. The Japanese, they call it money trees.
Yeah.
Very Japanese. And so I spoke to the guys about that. Oh, yes, they bring luck. They're also in fish and chip shops or any place, Chinese restaurants, they have these money trees. And the bigger the money trees are, the more, prosperous you are. So I said to the guys, oh, yeah, I can believe in that. Yeah. And said, no, you can't. And the reason being, it's not part of my culture. They really, truly believe that this is a little money tree. And it's the belief. That is not just hanging on to something because somebody else, is profiting from that belief structure.
Yeah.
So believe in yourself.
Yeah, and your own intuition, right?
Your own intuition, and believe that you're guided as much as the next person.
Yeah.
The money aspect is only a side effect, a sideline of the karmic pattern.
Right.
Of that individual. That's all it is. Yeah,
because I'm sure there's tons of people with money trees who are incredibly poor.
Totally, that's right. What is it going to say? I forgot now. Say you have a brain wave, or whatever it is. That is all guided, and very often also through the experience of talking to individuals who are going through a hard time. We get so involved in the circle of bad events that we almost believe we cannot get out of it. And that is so detrimental to ourselves, not only health-wise, obviously, but we're not allowing the mind to open up to hear. Hearing means to feel what you're going to do next. Our grandparents said, sleep on it. Our grandparents actually, they relaxed. They had, if you're lucky enough, you weren't doing the cleaning up, of course. They were allowed to have a nap after their meals. Same thing. Yeah. And even now, because whatever comes into life can't be altered. It's karma. Yeah. And it's relentless. But what we can do is to alter our attitude, and our attitude of mind is the physical situation of the physical path of our life. And that, of course, is karma. That is the physical path, our attitude. Totally. So preparation at the beginning of the day is so important. Try, if it's lying down, if it's on the toilet, try to allow that time to literally to meditate at the beginning, because that is literally the key word. And for the reason of that is it allows your mind to begin the day in a relaxed way. By relaxing at the beginning of the day, our mind begins relaxed. And by beginning relaxed, what it does, it allows us, the mind, to be able to release the tensions and the difficulties that might bombard us, because we're already starting on the right foot. So meditation, or the preparation, what you want to call it, enables us to ward off the anxieties that might bombard us and take hold of the body and our mind. So once something bad happens, we think of all the other negative thoughts that are around us as well. And that is what meditation can do. Meditation instead of scales. If our mental scales go one way or the other, what happens? Meditation is able to level that out. And that's so important. It's because it changes the attitude towards our life. And not only does it help the individual situations of our life, such as, let's say you have an argument with your partner or whatever it happens, children. Not only that, but it keeps the whole pattern of our life in some sort of a balance. I think what you told me before, Thor, in your corporate life, now you have a new position, a new boss. It's such a change. It's a change. You have to be able to cope with that as well. It keeps the whole balance, everything in a different light. Life is supposed to be good. We're being given a chance to learn. And how we learn it, that's up to us. That's the attitude of mind.
To start bringing the podcast to a close, do you want to repeat the positive message for the week?
Yeah, I think so. Start the day with, I've got a dream, not I've got a problem. And that's the way Martin Luther King began. An uphill journey.
Yeah.
He didn't totally see that, but someone has to begin.
Yeah.
And he had to have that in order just to keep at it.
Yeah. Start the day with I have a dream. I like that.
I have a dream. And if you have a dream, maybe that dream was put into your mind to go for that dream.
Yeah.
It may be a very different dream, but you have a dream. That is so important.
Thank you for a really great episode again, Ines. I always really enjoy our conversations. I learn something new every week, which is brilliant.
Thank you. And from you too, Thor, absolutely. It's so interesting because the different avenues, different areas and so on. And I love hearing how other people cope.
Yeah.
I really do.
Exactly. Well, thank you again, our listeners, for tuning in. If you enjoy what you're hearing, subscribe, comment, contact us, and then we'll respond to all types of questions. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.